What is up, guys? It is King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh! Back again with a backwards hat and a video that I am confident calling pretty good. Today's video is called Top 5 Budget Yu-Gi-Oh! Mistakes. These are things that I see budget players do. Some of them are a tad ironic and silly, but I mean, I'm drawing attention to the fact that they are silly so that we can kind of take a look at ourselves. And yes, I fall in the category of a budget Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, or at least when I can be. I rarely ever spend money that I don't feel like is absolutely necessary. And really, Yu-Gi-Oh! None of it's necessary, but I really enjoy it. But not the point I'm getting into, you know? But yeah, I think that these are things that I see Yu-Gi-Oh! Players do that some are not aware of. And drawing attention to them, I think, could help a lot of people budget better in order to maximize the way that they spend their money for this game. Because ultimately, it is an investment. It is something that does take money to play, whether we like it or not. It's never going to be free unless you just specifically play using online dueling simulators. But those of us that do play the in-person game, which will not be happening for a while, maybe could use some of these pointers, if you will. So yeah, let's hop in. Mistake number 1 is I see a ton of players sitting on a collection of either bulk, of unfinished decks, or of just collected valuables that they're just like waiting for this opportune moment to I don't know. I mean, I guess with the bulk, that specifically, sell that. If you're not using it, if it's stuff that you're just like, I don't know, get rid of it, sell it in a mass amount for a very cheap price, but at least you got some cash for it instead of taking up space in your home. You know, for the unfinished decks, I think that's just really a matter of like deciding, okay, am I really going to play these decks? Like I've been trying to build them for like a year and a half, and you know, the ban list is ever changing, the format is ever changing. I would say that that's unwise to sit on unfinished decks unless you're just like hugely a fan of them and you play for fun. Like now, casual players, it's a little different. But if you've not finished the deck in years, maybe it's time to part with those cards, make a little extra cash off of them, and buy the things that you're so wanting, but say that you can't afford. You know, that's just something to keep in mind. And as far as the collection stuff, I see that with just like, people assume that there will always be someone wanting these things in a trade. But the truth is, if you don't want it, probably someone else doesn't. That's obviously there are outliers, but if it's just like the collected junk, you know what I'm talking about? You can't answer me, but I feel like that's something that you need to kind of prioritize and get rid of or sell or whatever, either in mass amounts, because who knows if people will buy the singles or whatever it may be. Mistake number 2 is I see that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players often nickel and dime themselves to death, at least budget players, trying to look for that budget alternative quirky tech that replaces a crazy expensive card. And sometimes the truth is you just can't. Sometimes you just have to find not an effect or a card that does something that's like that, but something that is equally as powerful, but isn't the same. Hopefully that makes sense. Like for example, a replacement for like impermanence is like Lost Wind. It doesn't quite do the same thing, but it's equal in power because of the fact that, you know, it negates and then it can come back and recur. You know, where it's not going to do the same thing. But if you can do something that's equally as annoying to your opponent, you've replaced that card. But I feel like, you know, back rolling into it, this is not an Imperm replacement video, but you can't always find a replacement for everything. And I was guilty of this when I got back into the game early on in like 2015. I would buy like, I mean, probably hundreds of just like budget-friendly cards for like 50 to 99 cents. And I am scared to death to go back and add up what all of that costed because I use a total of none of it now. It's just a tanked investment. I was naive and I didn't understand the game quite yet, and it happened. I was like, oh wow, these are cheap on Amazon. I bet they're good. Like, so they were not good. And I'm not saying that I don't love a budget alternative and a quirky tech, but you've just got to be sure that it works before you buy these things, because you might find that you've spent the exact amount on these things that don't work that you could have just spent on the thing that does. It's like filling up your gas tank with only like a quarter of the way every time. You're just gonna end up spending what you were going to fill it anyway. You're just gonna take longer to do it. So yeah, keep that in mind. Don't nickel and dime yourselves. That actually leads me into mistake number 3, and that's the assumption that because a card is expensive, that you shouldn't or can't buy it. And I'm not saying you should just forget about your budget and go buy these things. But I think what people assume is, oh wow, that card is above, for me sometimes it's $10. I'm just never going to buy it. What that really means is, as a budget player, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to play things that cost money. That means you just need to probably save in order to get them. So, let's say you have a Yu-Gi-Oh budget per month. Let's say it's $50, but you're wanting a playset of Imperm. Well, you could only get 2 this month. So budget your money. Instead of buying a bunch of little stuff that, like we talked about in the last point of, nickel and diming. Wow, I can't talk. Save your money. It'll take you 2 months to acquire those cards rather than, just buying it outright, like someone who's maybe not so much a budget player and they can fork out the cash for all these new expensive staples and whatnot. I don't know. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind too. Mistake number 4. Priority issues, right? Spending money on these crazy accessories. Like, I see budget players, self-proclaimed budget players that have crazy expensive play mats. They have like more than one too, like, 1 or 2, fine. But I've seen people with like 5 or 6 expensive play mats, deck boxes, sleeves, the crazy expensive dice, like you name it, they've got it. Like, they've got to keep up, But if you're buying those things and you're saying you can't afford A, B, C, D, E, F, G cards, Chudun. What are you doing? That's a priority issue. You've got to budget your money and put it towards what you really want. And that just goes to show that certain budget Yu-Gi-Oh players just want something for nothing. They want to have the look without having to do the thing. So, yeah, that, like, if you have, excuse me, if you can afford your custom Dark Magician Girl nude playmat, Chudun, what are you doing? That's so weird. Now, am I saying that if you're into that, that's strange? Yes. Am I saying that you should be ashamed of it? Absolutely. Am I saying that I think that it's super weird to be attracted to cartoon characters and to have a mat with one that's like sexified to play in public or in private? Yeah, I am. Mistake number 5. This kind of actually ties in with the last one, but it's kind of a separate point. I see budget players aiming for a budget deck, but maxing out the rarity of whatever they can. Now, I'm not against, like, if I love shiny cardboard as much as the next grown adult, but if you are trying to play this game on a budget and you're complaining that you don't have the money for certain things, but you max out the rarity of whatever you can, don't you find that a little ironic? That's a little weird. And I understand that's kind of a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I don't know why. I personally don't get it. I will buy the cheapest possible card every time. That's not everybody. That's fine. There are certain favorites I have that maybe in the future I would hollow out because I like to collect as well. But I have no idea why people feel this need to, especially when it's not even a favorite deck. It's just like their competitive choice for this temporary format. They've got to hollow it out. What, are you insane? Do you hate being able to live? Do you not eat? What are you doing? You know, you don't need to do that. Stop trying to compare yourself to others and keep up. Just do what works best for you. You know, again, priorities in that sense. You don't need to max out rarity, especially if you're trying to play on a budget. You can do that gradually. Like I said, like we talked about in point number 3, save up. If you really, really want it, save up. You know, don't make these crazy transactions and then get mad when you have no money. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that helped a little bit. But those are the top 5 budget Yu-Gi-Oh mistakes that I see all the time. So let's try and correct those together and not be so silly. Yeah, thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, go visit my channel if you want to. If you don't, and see ya.
We don't play good decks, we play bad decks well. Scrubs by choice in this abyss we dwell.